Let's begin making our title. I'm going to the text tool and I'm going to type in the words cats and dogs. I'm going to choose my font, which is Avenir Next. We're going to use heavy. Now I'm going by some predetermined parameters here that I'm going to be referring to. So the text size is 211. And let's make this all caps. So I could have typed it in that way, but I didn't. So the leading doesn't matter because we're going to be manually moving these into position, but let's put on -75 for tracking. And we're going to go ahead and right-click and choose Create Outlines for these. And then we're going to ungroup. And I should then be able to select each one of my letters individually. And so when we create outlines, the letters are no longer a font, so they're not editable with the text tool. They become vector paths or objects that we can manipulate as such. What I'm going to do is select all the letters for my cat's text, and I'm going to select this pink color. And then for the dogs, I'm going to select the purple color, and I'm going to move these closer together. And what I want to do is just manually adjust some of the spacing between these letters, and I find this easier to do if I convert these to outlines than if I have to go in and use the text tool and type in the different parameters in the character menu. As I'm just manually kerning these letters, for the most part they look pretty good just the way they are. And I'm going to use my arrow key on my keyboard just to bump this up a little bit higher. Let's choose Command G, which is group. And now I can move those all together. Next I'm going to select all of my letters. I'm going to hit Command G to group. I'm going to hit Command C to copy and Shift Command V to paste in place. So now I have a copy sitting directly on my original, and I just pulled those out of the way so you can see. And we want to make this copy a dark brown, the same dark brown that we've been using for these strokes. I have that in my swatches panel, so I'm just going to drag that over into the fill. And we can right-click on this, and I'm going to go to Arrange and Send to Back. Now, this is going to be kind of like a border that we're going to use to make this a logo type, sort of a visual unit. Under Stroke, I can also select that, well, let's see. It's actually easier if I go to my Stroke panel and drag that brown color in the stroke swatch. And I can see a very thin stroke, a 1-point stroke appeared, and that's on the letters that are behind these pink and purple ones. And the stroke width that I have determined for this one already is going to be 48 points, and we can just type that in. So now we have a very thick stroke, and then in the stroke window I'm going to choose a rounded cap, a rounded corner, and then we can just leave a line stroke as center. Now we've got some gaps in here, some little openings, which I think are distracting, so I'd like to fill those in. I'm going to send my top letters to the back so that we can work with our brown letters here. Now what I'm going to do is go to the rectangle tool, and I can use a rectangle or an ellipse, it doesn't matter. Maybe I'll choose the ellipse. And I'm just going to click and drag to create shapes that are just going to cover over that those gaps. And what I can do is I can select those. So I've got all three of those selected, and then select Shift select my brown letters and right click to group, and now I have a group of these letters here. So I'm going to go to Send to Back again, and what that essentially does is bring our colored letters forward. Next thing I need is the word versus, because it's cats versus dogs. So I'm going to the text tool, I'm going to type in the word versus, and this is all lowercase, and I already have a gigantic font size here, but let's make this a little bit smaller. So we have that at 70 point, and we're going to change the font, so I'm going to use a font called Rockwell Extra Bold. Here it is. Okay, so Rockwell Extra Bold right here. And we're going to leave the tracking the same. And we want to change this to the same color as our background color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the eyedropper tool. I'm going to click on the background, and it picks up that color. And what we can do is drag the swatch into the swatches panel in case we need to use it again. And now it looks like my type disappeared, but it is there. It's just the same color as the background and we can't see it. Alright, so for this one we're going to do something very similar. We want this to have that brown thick border, so I'm going to Command C to copy, Shift Command V to paste in place. I'm going to choose my dark brown color, and I'll, I want to drag that over into my fill. And then we will put a stroke on this as well. So the weight of the stroke for this one will be 21 points. We're going to have a rounded cap and a rounded corner. We can leave the alignment at center. I'm going to right click, choose send to back, and now we have a background on our verses. And I'm just going to move this into position so that it kind of closes up any gap right there. And I'm just using the arrow keys to nudge this around. Alright, so that looks pretty good, and it's time to select all and group. We're going to resize this so that it fits better in this space. What I want to make sure I have set in my preferences is that scale corners, scale strokes, and effects is checked, because if this is unchecked and I scale, in other words I resize my type with the strokes on it, the strokes are not going to look proportional if it gets larger or smaller. So it's really important that those are checked. I'm going to hold the Shift key to resize, and I'm just going to drag this in. I'm using the arrow keys to nudge this around. I can turn my guides back on, so if I hold Command and semicolon, there are my guides. So I want to make sure this does not go beyond my guides. And actually, I'm going to make sure that this straight path aligns with the guide, and it's okay if this curved one goes a little bit beyond it. That's normal. All right, and I think that's about right.